from the writings of R.A. Salvatore in his novel Streams of Silver, and from the mouth of Drist Do'Urden. Nostalgia is possibly the greatest of the lies that we all tell ourselves. It is the glossing of the past to fit the sensibilities of the present. For some, it brings a measure of comfort, a sense of self and of source, but others, I fear, take these altered memories too far, and because of that, paralyze themselves to the realities about them. How many people long for that past, simpler, and better world, I wonder, without ever recognizing the truth that perhaps it was they who were simpler and better, and not the world about them. As a Drow elf I expect to live several centuries, but those first few decades of life for a Drow and for a surface elf are not so different in terms of emotional development from those of a human or a halfling or a dwarf. I too remember that idealism and energy of my more youthful days, when the world seemed an uncomplicated place, when right and wrong were plainly written on the path before my every stride. Perhaps, in a strange sort of way, because of the fact that my early years were so full of terrible experiences, were so full of an environment and an experience that I simply could not tolerate, I am better off now. For unlike so many of those I have met on the surface, my existence has steadily improved. Has that contributed to my optimism, for my own existence and for all the world around me? So many people, particularly humans who have passed the middle of their expected lives, continue to look back for their paradise, continue to claim that the world was a far better place when they were young. I cannot believe that. There may be specific instances where that is true. A tyrant replaces a compassionate ruler. An era of health engulfs the land after a plague. But I believe, I must believe, that the people of the world are an improving lot, that the natural evolution of civilizations, though not necessarily a straight-line progression, moves toward the betterment of the world. For every time a better way is found, the people will naturally gravitate in that direction, while failed experiments will be abandoned. I have listened to Wolfgar's renderings of the history of his people, the barbarian tribes of Icewind Dale, for example, and I am amazed and horrified by the brutality of their past, the constant fighting of tribe against tribe, the wholesale rape of captured women, and the torture of captured men. The tribesmen of Icewind Dale are still a brutal lot, no doubt, but not, if oral traditions are to be believed, on par with their predecessors. And that makes perfect sense to me, and thus I have hopes that the trend will continue. Perhaps one day a great barbarian leader will emerge, who truly finds love with a woman, who finds a wife who forces him a measure of respect, practically unknown among barbarians. Will that leader somewhat elevate the status of women among the tribes? If that happens, the barbarian tribes of Icewind Dale will find a strength that they simply do not understand within half of their population. If that happens, if the barbarian women find an elevation of status, then the tribesmen will never, ever force them back into their current roles that can only be described as slavery. And all of them, man and woman, will be better for the change. Because for change to be lasting among reasoning creatures, that change must be for the better. And so civilizations, peoples, evolve to a better understanding and a better place. For the matron mothers of Menzoberranzan, as with many generations of tyrant families, as with many rich landowners, change can be seen as a definite threat to their power base, and so their resistance to it seems logical, even expected. How, then, can we find explanation in the fact that so many, many people, even people who live in squalor, as did their parents and their parents' parents, and back for generation after generation, view any change with an equal fear and revulsion? Why would not the lowliest peasant desire evolution of civilization, if that evolution might lead to a better life for his children? That would seem logical, but I have seen that is not the case. For many, if not most, of the short-lived humans who have passed their strongest and healthiest years, who have put their own better days behind them, accepting any change seems no easy thing. No, so many of them clutch at the past, when the world was simpler and better. They rue change on a personal level, as if any improvements those coming from behind them might make will shine a bright and revealing light on their own failings. Perhaps that is it. Perhaps it is one of our most basic fears, and one wrought of foolish pride, that our children will know better than we do. At the same time that so many people tout the virtues of their children, is there some deep fear within them that those children will see the errors of their parents? I have no answers to this seeming paradox, but for Bruner's sake I pray that he seeks Mithral Hall for the right reasons, for the adventure and the challenge, for the sake of his heritage and the restoration of his family name, and not for any desire he might have to make the world as it once was. Nostalgia is a necessary thing, I believe, and a way for all of us to find peace in that which we have accomplished, or even failed to accomplish. At the same time, if nostalgia precipitates actions to return to that fabled rosy-painted time, particularly in one who believes his life to be a failure, then it is an empty thing, doomed to produce nothing but frustration and an even greater sense of failure. Even worse, if nostalgia throws barriers in the path toward evolution, then it is a limiting thing indeed. Drist Do'Urden.